Benjamin Britten owned a large collection of volumes of poetry in his library, both verse anthologies as well as volumes of specific authors. This is one of those volumes. Time's Laughingstocks and Other Verses by Thomas Hardy, first edition from 1909. This volume inspired Britten's collection of songs, Winter Words, for high voice and piano. And this volume is perhaps one of the most interesting of Britten's volumes of poetry because of its provenance. We know from a letter kept with the volume that this was given to Gustav Holst, famous composer of the planets, by Thomas Hardy himself. Dear Mr. von Holst, I owe you many thanks for your kind thoughts in sending the music. My new volume of poems has now been published, and if you will accept the copy sent herewith, it will give me great pleasure. You will find some lyrical ones in the collection. Yours very truly, Thomas Hardy. Gustav Holst did indeed find a lyrical poem that he wanted set to music. This one, he folded down the corner of the page to mark his choice, The Homecoming, which he set for male voice choir. Gustav Holst died in 1934, and this volume of poetry passed to his only child, Imogen Holst. Imogen Holst first met Britten and Peter Pears in 1943. She was setting up a music college at Dartington Hall in Devon, and she invited Britten and Pears to come and give a recital to her pupils. They struck up friendship, and she invited them back to the hall almost every year thereafterwards to give recitals for her pupils. Imogen Holst is a skilled composer herself. She went to the Royal College of Music before Britten and studied composition, conducting and piano. She was one of the first female conductors and won prizes for her own compositions. So when, in April 1952, Britten was thinking forward to the 1952 June Festival, and he wanted an orchestration of his work, Rejoice in the Lamb Making, a work he'd originally written for organ and choir. Britten was far too busy writing his coronation opera, Gloriana, ready for the Queen Elizabeth II's 1953 coronation. So he invited Imogen Holst to his house, Craig House, on the seafront, so that she could make the orchestration. When Imogen Holst returned to her home in Essex, she sent this volume of poetry by Hardy to Britten, partly as a thank you for what she called a holiday at Craig House, but also perhaps in the hope that Britten may set some of Hardy's words himself. Britten acknowledged receipt of the volume with a letter. He wrote, "My dearest Imo, it was heavenly to have you here, and I enjoyed every moment of it, and to commemorate the stay with such a present is just typical of you. I shall treasure the lovely volume with its memories of Hardy, your dear father, and you too. It has given a great incentive for the songs, and although my mind is somewhat full of other things, I think some new songs will bubble up before long." Britten invited Imogen Holst back to Aldeburgh for the June 1952 Aldeburgh Festival, and she conducted the orchestration of Rejoice in the Lamb she'd worked on that spring. And in her usual no-nonsense, enthusiastic way, she rolled up her sleeves and helped out with the festival work. So Britten invited her to come and live in Aldeburgh and work as his music assistant, which she did. She arrived in September 1953. Hardy's words did in turn provide inspiration for Britten. In spring 1953, he set his first poem by Thomas Hardy, Before Life and After, which is found in this volume. And then in autumn 1953, he finished 7 more settings of Hardy's words and arranged them in a collection of songs called Winter Words, which was published by Boosey Hawkes in 1954. One of Imogen Holst's first jobs as his music assistant would have been to write out fair copies of each of the songs as Britten composed them to be sent to the publishers. Winter Words was first performed in October 1953 by Britten and Pears at Harewood House as part of the Leeds Festival. When Britten was composing a set or cycle of songs, quite often he set more poems than he used in the final arrangement. And this is the case with Winter Words. He composed 2 songs which he rejected from the cycle. But thankfully he didn't throw these songs away. And since his death, these songs have often been brought to light and published. And this is the case with Winter Words. There are 2 songs which didn't make the final cycle, which are here. And these have been now published by Boosey Hawkes and are included in the 1994 new publication of Winter Words, but with the warning that they mustn't be performed with the cycle as Britten intended it.